Hey, friends, I want to welcome everybody to the Your Life His Story podcast, where each week we're going to be having and learning about someone's story and how they came to faith and how God's kind of showed up for them throughout their life. And so I'm your host, Wade Vincent, and today my special guest is Jessica Bates. So, hey, let's just get into it. Welcome, Jessica.
I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Me too. Hey, I just was kind of wondering, maybe just to get this kind of cranked off, maybe you could just tell everybody a little bit about your story, a little bit about yourself, so for those that don't know.
Hey, hi, my name is Jessica. I'm from Louisiana and I'm 43 years old. I have one little boy and I've been married for 23 years and I've had a pretty interesting story up to this point.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so I'm so excited to hear about it. So maybe we could get into just like kind of just tell us a little bit about kind of your childhood and growing up and kind of what your life was like, kind of just give a little background.
I grew up in a faith-based home. It was very structured. And so we were in church every time the doors were open. I feel like I grew up knowing about God and learning about God from a very young age. I always had the desire to know him. So, and it wasn't until I was an adult, I think, that I really had an encounter with him. And I feel like that's when things changed and it became different than just knowing about him and trying to follow the rules. And then it became more of a relationship.
I got you. So maybe when did you kind of first become aware or begin to sense, that the guy was interested in you?
When I was a teenager, it was funny. We would call it these feelings that I would get, but now I know it was the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
I felt like I would have these warning bells or discernment that would go off inside. And so I know now that was the Holy Spirit kind of speaking to me in his way. And that's pretty cool. But I think my first true encounter was my husband and I. We tried for a really long time to have a child, around 11 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so that was once we had our son. He's 11 now, but I remember that moment of not really realizing how heavy it was until we had him. And then all of a sudden that burden that I was carrying, that I guess over time I didn't realize how heavy it was. It was just my normal. But once he was here, I realized, oh, wow. And then I was able to experience different things with God and definitely gratitude and thankfulness.
Yeah. So, how did he how during those times did maybe he reveal himself to you? And is there some kind of way that you kind of sensed he was there?
Yes. And sometimes the only peace I could feel was whenever I was in my time with him through worship, praise and worship. I don't, it's just like a salve for your soul, you know? I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes that's the only thing that would give me peace.
Yeah.
It was really emotional. You feel like you have 5,000 emotions all at once. You see someone in the grocery store and they have a little baby and your heart breaks. But at the same time, you're happy for them.
Right. Sure.
So and then you feel guilty for being upset about it. So it is very emotional, infertility is. And so you have a lot going on all the time on the inside. And I found that through praise and worship and also serving, I found God, he showed me that if I served others, even if it's helping throw a baby shower for someone else, as hard as it would be, it would help. It would help heal what was hurting on the inside of me. So I found not focusing on myself, and by giving and praise and worship, it really helps me get through those hard times.
Yeah. So I can only imagine. It's something that me and my wife never personally experienced, but I know just being around you when I was, how it felt. And so would there be something, what would you say to maybe a listener out there that they're maybe dealing with that? I mean, what would be any advice you would give them or on how to kind of get through that?
So everyone says these cliche things that it's really difficult as a person going through infertility to hear. And I promise I will not say any of those things to you. But someone did say something to me one time. It was actually my aunt. And she said that God has a purpose for every single life. And maybe the reason why my child wasn't here yet is because God had a time and a place that they were supposed to be here. And now that I have my son and he's here, it just gave me peace then, and I see it happening now in his little life. Like, he has a purpose and a destiny, and he's supposed to be here at this time for a reason. God knew what he was doing all along. And I think the struggle of waiting for him has made me a better mom. It doesn't help when you're going through it, but on the other side of it, I could tell you God definitely had a plan and he knew what was best.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was actually recently thinking about, uh, like there's some things that lined up in my life recently, but I look back and God was setting this up decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
There were certain people I met decades ago that actually helped this come to pass right now.
Right.
And so it's so it's like God knows the end from the beginning, and obviously we don't. And so it can be a struggle, and I agree with what you're saying as far as like the cliches and stuff. I mean, like it doesn't make you feel any better.
No.
But I think what I can say is through the things I've had to wait for God for, that when I look backwards and look at, I understand it. I
Right.
understand the purpose and the way for most of the time. Some things I admittedly don't understand. I don't think any of us do. But so I know there was like a major event in your life
Yes.
that happened, and can maybe talk to us a little bit about that, because I think that was a time where you were in a situation where if God didn't intervene, there would be no hope, right? I mean, like,
Right.
yeah. So maybe get into that a little bit. I think that obviously you went through that, but then you have even another struggle that came up, and kind of what God did to prepare you for that.
It's pretty amazing. It was just a normal day. It was March 16th of 2023, and I was doing my normal life things. I wasn't doing anything different. I had no idea anything was coming, and then I had a ruptured brain aneurysm, and I can see now, looking back, how it's a miracle that I'm here. And God really lined things up for me. I know that he had a purpose in my pain. Like, there's a purpose for me going through that experience, because there's a lot of people that don't make it.
Right. Yeah, I can tell you when we got the call, I think it was like around 2 a.m. in the morning, and I was looking, and her husband Brian was calling me, and I was like, this can't be good if I'm getting a call from him at 2 in the morning. So I pick it up, and we get the call that you're at the hospital, and so we rush. We live about 45 minutes away, I think, from you guys, and ran over to the hospital. And as we're driving in, we see somebody being loaded into a helicopter, and I wondered if it was you. And sure enough, we got to the hospital, inside, and met with everybody. And they said, yeah, you were getting air flighted out. And honestly, there was some hope we had in God, but medically it didn't look good.
No.
It did not.
Yeah.
The prognosis was not good, and I don't know what the percentage was, but it was really low that you would have even survived it. But I found it interesting that like the kind of starting the year before that, God was kind of prepping you in a way.
Yes.
Right. Maybe talk about that a little bit.
Oh, my friends gave me such a hard time. About a year before that happened, I went through something. They were calling it a midlife crisis. And so all of a sudden, I just had this desire to be strong. I'm talking physically, mentally, spiritually. I just needed to feel like I was strong, like I was tough, like I was a warrior. I needed that. And it was just this desire I couldn't explain. I started training in jujitsu. I absolutely loved it. I started taking women's self-defense classes. I was going to the range. I got a concealed carry license. I love shooting at targets. And spiritually, I am studying the Bible. I want to learn who God is for myself, like not what I was programmed or taught as a child. Like, I wanted to know him for myself. And so I really was on this path of, I wanted to be strong inside and out. And so I couldn't understand it. I didn't know why. And actually, the theories I had nothing to do with why I actually needed it. It's funny how God does that. I would have never seen this coming. But when I had the aneurysm, I was unconscious for a while, and I was having to fight and be strong.
days and days and
And,
days. Yeah.
I would come out of it for a little while, but there were other times where I would go back out. And I don't even know, but in those times, if I wouldn't have felt that I was so strong and it's almost like I can compare it to, when you drive a car and you're just driving down the road and you know what to do. It's not like you have to think about, oh, I have to hold the steering wheel. I need to make sure, the right foot is for this. No, you just know you've done it. It's
Right. It's
programmed
kind
in
of
you.
autopilot.
Muscle memory.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel like I had that ingrained in me spiritually and mentally to be strong because I was as stubborn could be. And so I know I fought with all I had, even when I wasn't conscious. I was fighting. I was determined. Like, I'm not going to be a victim here. And so I was going to be a victor. And God, He helped prepare me for that, because if I wouldn't have felt like I was strong and I would have just given up, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. And I would have to think that like even your struggle with infertility, and now you have a son, and then I would have to think that was playing in your mind. Like I waited so long for him. I'm not checking out this way. Right.
I knew it wasn't God's plan for me. I knew that because there's no way we would have gone through all that for me not to be present in his life. Like, God has a plan for him and for us. And so it couldn't have ended that way. And I knew He was going to use this situation for the good. I knew He was. There was a purpose in it. And so it was not easy. Actually, the way it all happened, I collapsed in the emergency room. And thank God I was there, because they were able to give me something to absorb and stop bleeding long enough for me to make it too, because there's not a neurosurgeon in town. So they ended up finding one in Lafayette, and they were able to bring me there. And the fact that I connected with that neurosurgeon, who was amazing, was a God thing in itself. He was willing to take me. He already had other cases to do, but he took me in, and I ended up having to have a craniotomy. So when I woke up, I had from here all the way to here staples in my head. They had to cut through and go into my brain. It was a big surgery, And then when I woke up, I didn't even realize where I was or what had happened. I thought I was still doing what I was doing the night before,
Right. Yeah.
And so that was a thing. But then after that, I feel like that it was a big deal, but then it was the struggles after that. I had blood get into my spinal cord, and I developed spinal cord meningitis. And then I was in the hospital, another hospital, for 43 days. And then it was just, at that time I lost a lot of muscle, and I had to learn how to do things by myself again. Like, I remember literally learning how to take steps by myself. And I had to go through all this physical therapy and all these things to learn how to do things again on my own and to build that muscle back up. And I remember even going up, like tapping a cone or going up a stair. I was exhausted and white. And now you wouldn't even know unless I told you that this even happened to me. I mean, I go up and down the stairs for work just for exercise, because I'm trying to make sure I stay strong now. So
Yeah, I find it amazing how God preps you, because obviously if your body wasn't in the physical condition it was when this brain aneurysm happened, your body may not have been strong enough to make it through, because it was you had a rough, especially the first couple of months. I mean, it was rough, and I mean, and it, all the disruptions to your family and everything. But let me ask you this: was there like a certain, like, I know physically you had to prepare, but was there like a certain scripture or something that was kind of in you and just kind of kept repetitively coming up whenever you were kind of like spiritually trying to get through this?
So I kept the words being fierce and a warrior and a daughter of the king was very much present in my mind. I mean, I knew I had to be a warrior. Like, it was just, what's next? Okay, we accomplished that. What's next? Give me the next thing. All right, God, we did this small thing today. What's the next thing? But I think two things that I really held on to was, one is your perspective is so important. What you focus on, like what you put in, is what comes out. So, like the story in the Bible about Peter when he was walking on the water, when he saw Jesus and he was focused on him, he actually walked on water.
Right.
but there's so much going on in your peripheral. And when you turn your focus and you look at all the things going on around you, sink. And so I think it's so important when you're going through hard times, keep your focus where it belongs, on God. Put in things like worship, podcasts, the word. You just focus on your relationship with him and he'll take care of the rest. It is so important. And it seems too simple and too good to be true, but it works. It worked for me. And I think that that was very important, that I kept my focus on my relationship with him. Okay. And what's the next thing? What's the next step? When you just have to be obedient, you don't have to solve all the world's problems and know, how am I going to live my life a year from now? Like literally, it's just one thing at a time, one thing at a time. And there was this verse at Psalms 51:10. It's created me a pure heart and renew a steadfast spirit within me. And that is so important, that we keep our hearts pure and clean, because it's so easy to get caught up in anxiety and hopelessness and how am I going to get through this, and feeling sorry for myself. Suck it up, buttercup. You just have to do what you have to do. Life is hard and it's hard for everyone. And literally, don't get caught up. It's okay to feel sorry for yourself for a little while, but don't stay in it. Move on.
Yeah, I think, I was thinking about this story of Peter, and so many times I've heard it preached, and almost Peter's looked at derogatorily, like, yeah, took his mind off, or his, vision off of God. And I was like, hey, he was the only one that got out the boat. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And something I've also heard is that you're never going to get criticized by somebody doing better than you. It's always the people that are doing less than you. And so, as we're going through life, it's important to just keep that victor mentality rather than a victim mentality, right, for sure. Yeah. So, so if somebody didn't know God, like, how would you just, having gone through what you've gone through, how would you describe him to them?
No, he's my peace. He is my source of peace, for sure. Through these past year and a half, 2 years, he's definitely been my peace. If it wasn't for him and me being able to just focus on him, it's keeping it simple. Keep it simple. I don't have to figure. I like to have lists and plans, and I know I like to have everything figured out. So I have to intentionally keep it simple and focus on God. He is definitely my peace. After the aneurysm and the spinal cord meningitis, there were more things. Now I have all these extra parts. I had surgery on my back because my spinal cord has all these it's called spinal cord arachnoiditis, and it's got these adhesions that kind of bind it and compress it. So it's very painful. But when they fixed that and the spinal fluid was able to move, I lost all my function again. I got hydrocephalus and I lost control of my bodily functions. And I was in the hospital again for a while, and I ended up having to have another surgery where they put in a valve. It's a brain shunt, and it actually drains the fluid and drains it down into my stomach. So I've got all these extra little pieces. And then since then, I've also got a spinal cord stimulator so I can function and do day-to-day things, so I'm kind of like a little robot walking around, but I feel like I have purpose. The stuff they can do today is amazing. And I feel like I'm finally on the other side of things. But God, there's no way that I've made it through all that without him having a purpose in that. And I think encouraging people is definitely it. Like we all have things going on and crazy stories, but we can make it through it and encourage the others that are in the fight right now.
So I'm curious, what kept you in most people would deep dive into why me, God, and why is this happening to me, and that kind of a mental attitude. What kept you from that overtaking you? Like, why is all this happening to me, and kind of feeling sorry for yourself? Did you go through that, and if so, how'd you snap out of it so quickly?
I did have, occasionally I'd have nights where I couldn't sleep, and I would have these just kind of moments like that. I'm not going to lie. I really did. But I have so much to be grateful for. Gratitude is so powerful. First of all, I'm here. And the fact that I'm here tells me that I'm not meant to just wallow in it. I'm here for a purpose and a reason. I knew, because I survived the aneurysm, that God has a plan for this. And I knew it. I knew I knew it. I knew I was going to be okay. I knew that he had a plan for this and it was going to do, like, there's someone this is going to help. Like, my story is going to impact someone. And so it's just important to me. I knew I would be telling my story and encouraging people. And I just wouldn't allow myself. I actually even, and I don't know if this is, but for me, it worked. I got a little tattoo right here that says warrior on it. And when I do start feeling sorry for myself, I see it. It's right there where I can see it. And it reminds me, don't stay there. You're stronger than you think.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just one thing at a time, one day at a time.
So would you say there's a like, having gone through the things that you've gone through in your life, is there a, like, maybe I'll call it a common misconception that people have about God that you'd maybe like to set the record straight for them, or maybe give them an explanation, is that maybe their preconceived ideas of God are maybe incorrect?
Yes. This is like my little journey I'm on right now, actually. Sometimes what you know about God is what you've pretty much been told or taught or programmed to think. Like, I grew up in church, so what I knew of God is what I've been told by others. I would encourage you to get to know him for yourself. Read, worship, spend time with him, talk to him. Like, I mean, just get to know him for yourself. I feel like I thought you had to live a certain way, give up things, be perfect, do all these things to serve God. But that is not true. I remember I was 15 years old and I was a little rebel, and I was sitting in a loft and I was so angry about, teenage angst and all the things. And I remember telling God over and over again that I hated him. And it blows my mind to this day that he would do all the things he's done for me in my life, and show me the amount of love and favor that he's done for me when I actually told him that. I can't believe that. I mean, I was just so my heart was hard and I was full of hate. And he has completely transformed my life. Like, if you would have known me from when I was even in my 20s to now, I am not the same person. God has just softened my heart and he's completely changed who I am. And he's amazing. He's so loving and so kind and so good. You can just come as you are. And I think that's so important. You don't have to be a certain kind of person. No one's perfect. Just be who you are and come as you are. And God, he loves you where you're at. And as Christians, it's important for us to love people where they're at as well. Love them where they're at.
Yeah, I think something that people think is God's kind of fickle. You know what I'm saying? And that
Yeah.
he's maybe even moody, like, most of us can be, you know what I'm saying? But the truth is, God doesn't know how to not love us.
Yeah.
He only knows how to love us. He doesn't know any other way. And so when we're acting crazy and doing stupid things, he still doesn't know how to do anything but love us, which is really amazing, actually. So let me ask you this: if somebody was struggling, like, to believe in God, or to believe God, I mean, what would you say to them?
You have to do the work for yourself. You can't just trust what other people say. Until I had an encounter with him personally myself, I didn't understand. I tried to do all the right things and say the right things for a long time, but until I encountered him in my heart for the first time. So if you have questions, if you want to try, I think it's so important that you tell him and you do the work yourself. As far as do the work, I mean, read the Bible, podcast, what you put in his vocabulary, like, really research it for yourself. God will put people in your life and he'll show you things, but you need to have your eyes open to receive it. Maybe have some quiet time. I think quiet time is important, not only where you're not the only one doing the talking, where you can also try to listen and quiet your mind. I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that if you are, truly in your heart, you're looking for God to reveal himself to you, he'll certainly do that.
Yes.
You mentioned a question. So if Jesus were sitting with us here right now, Is there a question that you would ask him? Is there something you would want the answer to that I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot with that, but is there
I
something you
don't
would ask him?
know if he was here right now, like in my mind, I would be running up to him and giving him the biggest hug in the whole entire world. Like I have this whole plan for whenever I meet him for the first time. I can't wait. I just feel like I just want to hug him. I don't even have questions right now. I just want to hug him. Like I really do. He's been so good to me. He's been such a good father.
So, you've obviously, overcome these, big obstacles in your life but like what's going on now? What is God teaching you right now? What's going on with you currently?
So currently, he's showing me some really cool things. So I thought before all of this happened that your purpose would have to be, a title or something important. And I'm just an ordinary person. I mean, there's nothing super spectacular about what I do for a living. And before the aneurysm, I was feeling a little unappreciated, like most moms. You cook, you clean, you work, you do all the things, and it's just the same thing every day. What I didn't know is I, there's purpose in the small. So when I had the aneurysm, the outpouring of love I got from people around me whose lives I had touched, I had no idea. And it really is just loving people. I like to call it being like a secret little love ninja for God. It's the smallest little things, but baking a birthday cake for someone, showing up when they're sick, or bringing them some soup. I mean, it could be the smallest thing, which seems insignificant, but it's showing them love and kindness is so important. I didn't realize how many people that had touched until after when I was in need, and the outpouring was overwhelming. And I realized God's doing something where I'm at in my little job with the little people in my, not little people, but the people in my life, me doing little things. It actually is doing something for God, and it's showing them who he is and what it's like to love others. And so, yeah, right now I feel like my purpose is it's powerful, but it's small. It's just loving the people in my life. The people around me are going to know how loved they are.
Yeah, I think sometimes, and of course we're inundated now with social media and what everybody's expectations are, and what hey, you got to rise to the top, and now the latest thing is what do you got to do to become a billionaire, or whatever. And it's like really that's probably a rare thing for people to do, and most people would never be willing to make the sacrifices to get there, and probably shouldn't make the sacrifices to get there, because they're pretty great. But like where we are in our current lives right now, it's like that's our circle of influence, right?
Right.
And so if we're being good stewards of what our circle of influence is, then that's really all God, would expect from us, right? You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So is there any final thoughts or anything that you just kind of like to speak to the guest while we're still on air?
Yeah, I think it's in connection is important. I think people are lonely. And as adults, it's really hard to make friends. And I think it's important to just connect with others in your circle and just be kind to people. I'm serious. It's just the things that seem so small, but people need that. And that just that connection and not being on your phone, or just the little connection of just smiling at someone, or just checking on them, or giving them a call, or whatever it may be. I don't know. You can see what it is for you in your life and your situation, but I feel like it's important to connect with others and to love others, because it doesn't matter what you say to people. It's how you live your life that's going to touch their hearts. It's what you do. So I feel like it's just important that we set a good example to love others.
Last week it's funny you're saying that, because last week I got a text from a friend of mine, and she just sent this text, and it was something like, "I just want to let you know I love you. That's all."
Yeah.
And how long did that take? Maybe a couple seconds,
Hmm.
but it actually brightened my day, because it's like there's actually somebody out there that I'm even at least on their mind. You know what I'm saying? And that they were thinking about me, and we've shared some of our story with each other, and so she kind of knows what I'm going through at the moment. I know what she's going through. Her husband is going through chemo for cancer, and so I'll shoot a text every once in a while, hey, praying for you, for your husband, And then, but even in the midst of her, dealing with her own personal struggle with her family right now, she's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, boom."
Yeah.
And I'm like, we sometimes we think the smaller things don't matter, but I one thing I've learned just kind of just paying attention as I'm going through life is, and when you stop and encourage somebody, it really can make their day. It can,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe even longer than that. And so just taking the
Yeah.
time, I was actually, uh, me and my wife had went to dinner the other night, and the waitress, she was actually funny. She was kind of like a little comedy show, and she wasn't trying to be. She was just one of those people. And as we went on, I just kind of felt the need to tell her that she was going to do something significant in life. You know what I'm saying, and I'm sure she's, I can just imagine if you're waitressing, that's probably not anybody's, in dream to be on the wait staff. And that's all I said to her. I said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, man, I feel like you're going to do something significant in life." And like her whole countenance changed. It totally changed. She goes, "I really needed to hear that."
Wow.
And so, and kind of going to what you're saying, like we think sometimes that, that didn't take much effort from me at all,
Right.
right? But it totally made her day. And I think the more we can do that, the more we can be aware, not to get too deep into this, but I was thinking about how, being selfless, how it matters to be selfless, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking about yourself less. And
Yes.
and so when we're going
Mm-hmm.
through these things, what I'm saying, like you're going through this struggle for your fighting for your life, but you're more thinking like, I have to survive this. I got a little boy I got to finish taking
Right.
care of. You know what I'm saying? So it's not even about, why me, God, and what's going on with me. It's that all that. It's like, man, I have to fight and be a warrior so that I can be there to raise my son.
I found in my life when I focused on myself, it's been the unhappiest times in my life. Like there's just something with unhappiness and selfishness that I feel like correlates hand in hand. I truly believe that. Like any time that I've really just kind of been down in the dumps or anything, I feel like the solution to that is doing something for others. I really believe that.
For sure. And one of the worst, pieces of advice that seems to be what everybody's saying nowadays is, man, you need to do whatever makes you happy. And I'm like, that, that's pretty horrible advice. You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm against anybody being happy, but listen, what's going to make you happy in the moment is there's a price to pay for that usually
Yeah.
and it's like, well, what about others' happiness, and why don't you live a little less selfish life? You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're probably happy if you ate ice cream all day, but the outcome of that's probably not going to be good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, that just seems to be the thing. Do whatever you feel like doing and all that. Like, man, that's not good advice at all.
And I feel like it's such a good form of leadership. Like I feel like truly good leaders serve others. Like they have an attitude of serving others. And when you see people in life that serve others, like I want to get behind that. I'll follow your lead.
For sure.
So I don't know. There's just something about having a heart for serving others and not being so centered on yourself all the time. And gratitude, gratitude changes my life. An attitude of gratitude will change everything. The way you look at everything.
Yeah, it's funny that like I'll tell people, obviously you can see the studio, so I'm into Jeeps, and I'll see every Jeep that's out there. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to look for them. That's just what happens. Every Jeep that passes
Hmm.
by, I see it. And I think that's like back to you. We were talking about almost like at a subconscious level, and you're driving and you're not thinking about, let me hold the steering wheel at 10 and 2 and let me
Right.
make sure I'm doing all this stuff, because you've just done it so much. It's muscle memory. It's autopilot. And it can be the same, uh, when we're programming ourselves to gratitude, and we're programming ourselves to look for the good and not for what's wrong in a situation and what's wrong with that person. How about let's look for what's right in that person,
Yes.
and how can we kind of like call the good out of them? You know what I'm saying? How can we say something that'll reach into that good part of them and pull it out? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, any last thoughts? I mean, I know we're kind of getting towards wrapping this up, and I mean, your story's amazing, and I think that just kind of me as I've observed things, it's like I've definitely seen how you think the things that you do are small, but have a great impact on people. And I know you've definitely had an impact on me, and just checking up. Hey, how are you, and such. It's meaningful because it's like, to your point, how many people are checking up on you? Not many. You know what I'm saying? As an adult, we're
busy.
We're grown, and for somebody just to make that extra effort and reach out to you, or just say, man, I'm thinking about you, or hey, I love you, or hey, man, anything going on? Hey, I just was thinking about you, or whatever. I mean, you think that's small, but it's actually not, you know?
Well, thank you so much. And I love this podcast. I love what it stands for. I'm really excited to see what it's going to do.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I just thought that, the Bible's full of stories, right? Just people's stories. But interwoven in that is you can see God in that, right?
Yes.
And that was where kind of the thought of it's our life, but it's His story throughout our life. It's Christ in you, the
That's
hope of
right.
glory is what it says. And so I just thought that, let me give a platform for people to share their story. You know what I'm saying? Because somewhere out there, I know there's, a woman struggling with infertility, and why God, and
Yeah.
I know that's out there, and then somebody's out there struggling with a health situation where they don't know if they can overcome it or not. And so I know that your story is going to encourage them and maybe inspire them. Hey, it's worth the fight.
It is.
There's something on the other end of this thing, and hey, just trusting God and the timing of your infertility, and listen, we understand, and I want to be very aware, people's feelings. Like, some people, they don't end up having the child, and but God can meet you where you're at. And
Yes.
that's the important thing. God can meet you where you're at, and He loves you, and He's always for your good. And that doesn't mean everything that happens to us is good. I love that scripture that says all things work together for good. And I was actually talking to a friend of mine this week, and they lost a grandchild. Right? I mean, that's horrific. Under any circumstances, it's not good, right? But there's been some amazingly good things that have come from that, and he shared some of that with me, and it just shows me that, like, everything that happens to us in this life is not good,
Right.
but God can work it all for our good, and if you give Him that opportunity and give Him that chance, He will do that.
Yes. And don't give up.
Well, look, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I hope you're encouraged, and I just want to encourage you in this. God has the ability to rewrite your story. So no matter where you are and what circumstances you're in and what you're going through, when you surrender to God and let your creator, like I don't want to dive too deep in this, but I was actually on the way to work and I was praying. And I was thanking God for creating me, because I wouldn't even exist if I wasn't in His mind. And so, and when God creates, He already knows the end from the beginning. So He already knows where you're going to end up before He starts you. And so He knows that, and He still starts you because He wants you. And so the fact that you exist means God wants you. So never give up and thinking, well, I wonder if I matter. Well, listen, you matter. He created you. He could have not created you if you didn't matter, right? So anyway, I wanted to give you that encouragement that God can rewrite your story. And if you haven't surrendered your heart to Him, it's, I want to highly recommend it, that you allow Him to lead you on an amazing journey. And so let your life become His story, right?
Right.
Awesome. Hey, it's been great. Loved having you here, Jessica.
Thank you.
And we're going to see you on next week's podcast. Have a great one.